So I'm here with Eric Leija. He is the co-founder of On It Gym and Adidas sponsored athlete. Good to see you, Eric.
What's up, savages?
That's awesome. So you do many things. You teach here at On It. You work with individuals. You do classes. You have an online program, putting together retreats. And we're going to jump into all that stuff soon with your offering. But what has fitness done for you personally?
Personally, fitness has helped me develop discipline. It's allowed me to really create structure in my life and be able to, build healthy habits that translate into the rest of my life and work. I mean, obviously it's my job now, it's fitness, but also, with my relationships and with myself, with other people. And, when I'm tackling new hobbies, it gives me the discipline to, be able to follow through with things and finish and not just, quit halfway through.
Nice. Including our upcoming Go Ruck, which we'll talk about soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mentioned, you have a wide variety of programs and projects that are going on, and you just laid out one of the benefits you find from fitness. Fitness, it sounds like it's great for you. It's great at discipline and structure. What do you find that when you train other people that it imparts in them? What are you seeing in your clients?
Oh, right away, the first thing that I see is that they develop confidence.
Nice.
It's they feel like, they get small wins from, they're able to lift 20 pounds heavier than they were the first week, or they're able to execute a movement a lot more smoothly than the first time they learned how to do it. It's just like little things like that where people feel like, man, like I'll never be able to move like you, or, and also learning, not just building the confidence that they can do harder things, but also, knowing that they can throw themselves into something and be uncomfortable, and eventually they'll be able to come out of it as better people, or as, better movers, and be able to, use that and like translate that to other parts of their lives. I have clients that come to me who they want to get in better shape, they want to lose weight, they want to be stronger. But some of the biggest wins that I see with my clients is that their relationships start to feel better.
Nice.
Because they're, like I said, they're more confident, they have more energy, and they're able to go through life with a lot more vigor and enthusiasm instead of being so tired and run down or in pain. Being able to use fitness to help feel stronger and more capable in their bodies helps them like tenfold in every part of their lives.
I love that. So how did you get involved in fitness that led you to be a co-owner here of On It and Adidas sponsored athlete? What's your path?
I grew up, being a chubby kid in like middle school, going into high school. I played a little bit of like middle school football. That's how I got into training. I wanted to be strong for football and get into the A team or whatever it was called. And so I started learning how to lift weights from my brother and my dad, who were big into bodybuilding back in the day. So around 11 years old, I got like I remember I went to the Gold's Gym down the street, lied to them, told them I was 13 and so I could get a membership. I started going to the gym and also training at home. I remember I had the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I dug through that. I lost a bunch of weight going into like my 8th grade year and got super in good like muscular shape. So that's what got me into fitness, was like wanting to be more active, not be chubby. I remember my sister and my brother used to make fun of me all the time. They're like, you're never gonna have a girlfriend, you're so fat. I used to really like, be pretty mean, but I changed, my habits, stopped eating fast food all the time. I started working out, started running more, and got into bodybuilding and strength training. And but eventually I like fell out of love with just doing the strength training side of things, because my whole goal was like, I'm gonna get in shape so that I can attract girls at school, because everybody was getting their first kiss, their first girlfriend, and I was just like, man, like I want that. And I need to get in shape first. I need to trim off this fat, get rid of these man boobs, and like, feel comfortable in my own skin. And so I was able to do that, but I still wasn't able to get a girlfriend. I still don't have any game, So I was like, what am I doing wrong? And so that's when I started getting into martial arts, got into jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, around 13 years old. I was like, I want to be like those UFC fighters. Those guys are like cream of the crop, the most awesome people that I know. I want to be like them. I'm sure they get chicks. And so I started training at a young age. It got me into unconventional training because all the guys that I was training with in martial arts, a lot of the guys that were in the UFC that I knew, they were training with kettlebells. And so that's when I first got into using kettlebells and using it for strength and conditioning, and really just like fell in love with different type of training using plyometrics, jumping, body weight, and training more for sport and using things that are a little bit more functional that translated to the strength that it takes to actually apply it to a fight. And so that's how I got into fitness around my teenage years. And I became a coach around about 10 years ago. I was like about 21 years old. Yeah.
Just turned 31. Happy
exactly.
birthday.
Yeah. I originally wanted to be an MMA fighter. And so I kept training for that for several years, all the way up until I got out of college or out of high school. I went to college for like a year. I dropped out of school. I decided to pursue a career in MMA. I tried to train with a bunch of really awesome UFC fighters, and I had a bunch of jiu-jitsu tournaments and this and that. And then I did my first MMA fight where I realized like, this is the craziest thing I've ever done. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was a back and forth battle. We ended up winning Texas Amateur Fight of the Year because it was such a brutal, we beat the crap out of each other for 3 rounds. And I ended up losing a split decision, but I remember, finishing on top. I remember I took him down at the end. And so I felt confident that it was a good performance. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, this is not my vibe. Like getting punched in the head, and like fighting pretty much it felt like fighting to the death wasn't really a very holistic approach to what I wanted to do with my life. And I was just like, oh, I think I want to protect my brain and my brain cells. And so I ended up just continuing to do fitness. And I was working at the On-It warehouse, packing up supplements, shipping off the mail. And I was really happy working at On-It, even though I was, in the warehouse department, shipping off the mail. I was happy because of the community there. We were connected to a bunch of my favorite UFC fighters, Joe Rogan, and all that community. Everybody was super open-minded. And so I really vibed with the community, and I was super cool just having that, that base job. And eventually, after a couple of years, our CEO, a friend of mine, Aubrey, decided to open up a gym because we were selling kettlebells, battle ropes, steel maces, and he wanted to use the gym to help teach people how to use the tools that we were selling. And so he asked me and my brother to be some of the first coaches. I got certified, started training family members inside the gym, got my reps in, and the rest is history. I was able to gain a lot of experience really fast, especially in those first couple of years. We were like flying in some of the most awesome like physical therapists, coaches, all the best people in the game at the time who were educating people. They were teaching their seminars and certifications here. Us as coaches had the privilege of sitting in and learning from all these top guys in the game. And so I learned a lot really fast and just super grateful for that. But yeah, so I took a turn from wanting to be an MMA fighter, trying to make an impact in that way, to making an impact by helping people with fitness. And so I'm very grateful for that transition because I don't have to get punched in the face to try to show people. Because those guys are awesome, man. Like they're living the lifestyle. They're super healthy and strong and, making a difference by showing people what's possible with discipline and being able to, stay disciplined enough to, do a fight and be in such good shape, have huge, it's a positive impact on the world and especially kids nowadays. Just wanting to be physically healthier and stronger. But now I'm grateful that I can do that in a different capacity that's more in line with me not wanting to get beat up. So
can appreciate that. That's good. Share with us some of the offerings you have, both here at On-It, what you offer, but also you have online offerings. Some new programs coming up down the pike too.
Yeah, so I coach in person here at the On-It gym. I teach a kettlebell conditioning class, and I'm eventually, after the summer, going to start a full body strength class that'll be going on. So that way people can train with me 5 days a week. But that's here at the On It Gym. Just got to come be a member and you have access to train with me and a bunch of other awesome coaches here at On It. And I also am looking forward to teaching in-person retreats and workshops, seminars, certifications. I've done that a lot in the past. I've traveled around and taught people the basics of kettlebell training. And I'm excited to get that up and going again, just so I can not only travel and see new places, but also connect with people. Because there's nothing beats being there in person with people and actually getting that one-on-one connection. And, it's a different vibe. But with that all being said, I also have online coaching and training. I have an online subscription program where I do 6 days a week of training on my app. It's
what's the app?
It's you just go to primalmethods.com.
Okay.
And I'm part of a platform called Ensemble, Ensemble.
Okay.
So go to ensemble.com/primal. And you can find my subscription program. It's ongoing. I update the workouts 3-week cycles. So you do the same set of workouts for 3 weeks, progressively overload, get the most out of those workouts, and then I switch it up every 3 weeks.
Nice.
Because for me personally, doing random workouts every week and switching it up every week doesn't help me make progress. I like to do the same workouts at least 3 weeks in a row. 6 different workouts, 3 weeks in a row, progressively overloading either with weights or with tempo changes, increasing the intensity a little bit week to week helps me get the most out of those routines before I switch it up. Otherwise you're just kind of like doing random things all the time and not giving your body enough stimulus and time to adapt to the training you're putting it under. So that's why I like to repeat the same workout for 3 weeks and then I switch it up. Sometimes I can train the same workouts for 4, maybe 6 weeks, but I just feel like after the 4-week marker, I start getting a little bit bored. And for my clients as well and customers online, I like to keep it at 3. That way, keep it fun and engaging, switch it up after 3 weeks.
Nice.
But you get 3 full body strength training sessions a week and 3 suggested conditioning workouts, which I say suggested because personally, I do all the full body strength training sessions where we do actual lifting with the kettlebells and body weight. But on the off days, the conditioning days, I don't do those exactly as followed on the program. If you do them, you're going to get great results, but I like to mix it up. Recently, my mindset around training has become trying to be more capable outside of the gym, so I've been really obsessed with training and getting really conditioned with specific things and modalities in the gym. I'm excited to start exploring new ways to, express my fitness. And I've just recently started getting back into jiu-jitsu, grappling, kickboxing. I'm going to start, I started doing rucks with you, getting outside and using different things to work on my conditioning outside of the gym. So that's what I recommend in my program. But yeah, just to kind of touch on that though, my mindset around fitness has changed in the recent years. It's just because I felt like I've kind of reached a limit into where I'm being challenged in the gym. I don't feel the same thrill that I used to get when I used to hit PRs in the gym. Now it's like, yeah, of course I hit that. I've done that before. It's not new. I still get in the gym for my strength training sessions to make sure I keep a base level of fitness that helps me go out into the world and try new things. But I'm very excited to mix it up and be more adventurous and try things that really kind of scare me, which that's what jiu-jitsu feels like right now. Like the other day, I went back into the gym. This is like my second training session in the last week, from being absent for years.
You rolled with a mutual friend, Victor.
Yeah. So that was the first time. And yesterday I went back in across the street to train with my old coaches that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I got to train with some new guys, and all these guys were really strong, really big guys. And I did the full hour class, learned some techniques, and I stuck around for an extra 40 minutes to do some live rolling. And I did a few rounds, and I just remember after the fifth 5-minute round, it's 20 minutes of just live rolling. I'm exhausted. this fresh guy walks in. He's like super jacked, in shape. I'm like, man, this guy's gonna be a problem. And he like looks at me like, hey, you want to roll? And I'm like, I kind of just did like, nah. You know, like I was done. I was ready to go home. And I was like, oh man, I can't wuss out. Like, this is where I test myself, you know? And like I was this close to making the decision to just give up and be like, nah, I'm gonna get out of here. But I was like, you know what? Even though I'm done, I'm tired, I want to see what I got against this fresh guy. And sure enough, we're toe to toe going at it. Yeah, he didn't submit me. He didn't take me down. We were pretty much, you know, going back and forth, and I was able to finish on top. Even though I was very exhausted and tired and he was fresh, I still was able to hold my own and not give up. I was so close to giving up and just walking out of there. But I was like, no, you know what? This is where I got to test myself today, see where I'm at. But I'm excited to get back in there and not just be dead tired at the end of every session and really start using my technique more like I used to when I was a lot better at it, a lot more technical. But now that I'm getting back into it, it's just things just slowly coming back. I'm going to go to more classes to get more technique, kind of refresh. But just very excited to get challenged in that way because like there's something just so awesome about feeling like you're on the fence about something and you're like on the verge of quitting, and then you overcome that voice inside that wants to, you know, that tells you to fucking quit and give up, and you don't give up, and then you actually do way better than you thought you were going to do. That's the biggest confidence boost about, you know, trying hard things. So now, you know, I'm just very excited about trying even more difficult things or different things that make me feel uncomfortable, because that feeling that I get of like that confidence, that knowing like, man, like I almost gave up and look at that, fucking killed it, you know? So
you're also a part of Team Fudishin. We're doing a 50-mile go ruck in DC, less than a month.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You and I have a 30-mile ruck tomorrow around Ladybird Lake, which is awesome. We've been doing long rucks every week over the weekends and stuff. What are you learning from the rucking itself?
That it's all mental. You know, once you get past the first 15 miles, it starts hurting. Your feet start to hurt. You start getting some cracks and some pops in your hamstrings, you know, your glutes, everything starts to hurt. But as long as you stay hydrated, you keep your snacks on you and you stay fueled, as long as you keep moving, you'll be all right. But for me, the most awesome part about rucking, especially in a team, is getting that time to be with your friends and be vulnerable with other men, you know, because I feel like that's something that's really missing in my life, especially in a lot of men's lives nowadays. I feel like it's what we seek a lot as, you know, in this concrete jungle that we all live in. Like, I feel like when I was partying a lot and doing substances and, you know, going out and trying to connect with other dudes, I was trying to find a tribe and using substances to help me lower my guard down so I can be vulnerable with them at these after parties and talk about my experiences and my trauma. And I just remember, like, after a while, I was like, man, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Like, I'm seeking connection in these very like wretched ways because I'm just going in circles and I'm not moving forward. I feel like I'm talking about the same thing every single weekend. And the person that I'm talking to, they're not really listening. They're just waiting for their turn to talk about what they're going through. And I feel like I'm just going in circles and I'm just talking to a wall. And so that's when I started a recovery program. I went completely sober and I learned techniques and tools that help me, you know, navigate life without having to get high and not have to hide from my problems, and actually talk to people about what I'm going through when I'm sober, and find people and mentors like yourself, so that I can really like talk about what I'm going through and actually make some progress and actionable steps to get better and be better. And so I find that doing the ruck helps me invite other men to come get uncomfortable, you know, go out in nature, go on a long walk where, you know,
8-9 hours.
Yeah. And I feel like going on a ruck too, you're not sitting face to face with each other, looking at each other in the eyes, which is valuable in itself. But when you're doing it as, you know, you're kind of new to it, it makes it a little bit more comfortable when you're walking facing nature and not having to stare at your friend that you're telling all your deepest, darkest secrets as you're going through your ruck, yeah, it makes it easier to open up.
Fair enough.
Without having to stare at your friends, so it kind of takes some of the tension off, some of the pressure, so that you can be vulnerable. And so that's what I've been loving about the rucks.
Yeah, I gotta say, I acknowledge your courage, because you really, like, especially like when we first started rucking, just the two of us, before other guys started coming in, you really opened up and shared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love having all types of people there, because they really push the conversation. So I highly recommend it, and I'm also excited to open up and build tribe and camaraderie in different ways. That's why I'm excited to keep going back to jiu-jitsu, because when I was doing martial arts and doing jiu-jitsu specifically, when you're beating each other up, it's like the most humbling thing, and it's honestly the best way to let your guard down. Like when you do hard things with your friends, I feel like you can trust them more, because like, man, this guy's been through the ringer with me. He's part of my tribe. I can trust him with my deepest, darkest secrets.
He's got you.
Yeah, he's not just gonna fold when things get hard, or when somebody's interrogating him about, what we talked about. He's not gonna spill the beans. I can trust he can keep my secrets, and it's between him and I. And so I feel like doing something hard with your friends, outside of like trying to go to a bar and just getting really fucked up. I feel like in our society, we've created these rites of passage that's kind of all we grew up knowing as young men. I feel like the only rites of passage we really had growing up is outside of sports. Like, a lot of people were very fortunate to go to night schools that had really amazing programs for sports. So if you had access to that, that's fucking awesome. But for the most part, like a lot of guys growing up, your rite of passage of coming into manhood is whether you had sex or whether you got drunk or high for the first time, doing drugs. Those are your initiation into adulthood or manhood. And we kind of hold on to that as we get older. And that's all we kind of seek as men, especially in our 20s. All we do is want to go chase women, want to go party, go get the drugs so we can have a good time, and I feel like we're missing the challenging aspect of it, and also being present and being more sober. It's okay to, add, a little bit of substances here and there if you're in a healthy space, but if you're still coming into your own, I feel like it's a lot better to just be present, be sober, be in your own body, and connect with other people in your community and other men in healthier ways, and doing challenging, hard things where you can get vulnerable. And I feel like as a society, that's what we know, what we're seeking, and we're trying to do it in the ways that we know, by going out to bars, watching sports together, chasing girls. It can all be very bonding, especially if you're a young man and you and your friends are kind of like really socially awkward and like, oh, we're gonna go talk to those girls. Like it can be very exhilarating and very challenging. But there are other ways outside of that where there's a fear of rejection and it can really kill your ego. There's different ways we can go out into the world, out in nature, do challenging things that are gonna help us build that resilience to come back to those other harder things. We don't have to keep trying to make ourselves miserable by just doing the same things over and over again.
I love that. Yeah, I love the fact that for fitness for you is a vehicle for developing character traits, like you said, discipline and structure and things along those lines, and that how you use fitness with your clients to impart that in their lives. That fitness is great in and of itself, but it builds a confidence for you to show up in other areas. And then I love the fact that you just talked about that men need tribe. We need initiatory rights, and it's not just getting laid and getting drunk and doing drugs. We're like, let's do hard things together. It really helps bond men together. It gives us opportunity to connect more deeply. And I love that, because I think culturally speaking, we don't have that, and I think that's needed. And that's awesome that you see what at least what we're doing with Team Fudishin as one example among many of that, as an expression of that. And with you Jiu-Jitsu is also an expression of that too. So men need more of that. So I completely agree with you. That's awesome. Now, if people want to find out, like, oh, I want to train with Eric at On It, or I want to train with Eric privately, through your app, or these retreats, he just teased us about some retreats he's done. Like, how do people follow you and learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, you can find me at primal.swoledier on Instagram, or Eric Leija on YouTube, or Eric Leija on Facebook, or primalmethods.com. Or come find me at the On It gym here in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
And I'll be here most of the time, so
Awesome.
yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.